The true danger wasn't just his talent. It was his brilliant, on-the-fly problem-solving. Heading into the contest, all signs suggested Alcaraz was poised for another dominant tournament run. He possessed the momentum and the mystique of a champion who manufactures wins on the biggest stages. But that night, the facade crumbled. For the first time in what felt like ages, Alcaraz appeared merely human, even breakable. He was just a fraction off-kilter, which against a predator like Corda was a fatal flaw. From the opening games, the atmosphere felt charged. It wasn't a matter of Alcaraz playing poorly. His caliber remained elite, his agility explosive. His shots were still laced with genius, but a faint indecision had crept in. That split-second delay in judgment is a lifetime at this level, and Corda smelled blood in the water. This was not some star-struck challenger. This was a man who arrived with a blueprint for victory and the absolute conviction to execute it. Following the match, Corda was congratulated on his first career win over Carlos and a reigning world number one. Asked how it felt, he confirmed the feeling was incredible. He humorously described his path as the scenic route, filled with more stress than he would have liked, but was thrilled with his unwavering performance. He recalled battling through several dangerous situations by maintaining his self-belief. He credited his persistence for the victory, noting that he played exceptionally well when it mattered most at the end. When questioned about his team's strategy to maintain a controlled, aggressive game, Corda was asked how he managed to mentally reset after dropping the second set. He admitted that it took a tremendous amount of deep introspection to stay the course. He reflected on his past struggles, having played many great opponents without managing to secure a signature win. He felt that in previous encounters with top players, his tendency was to overhit and try to force the action unnecessarily. He revealed that his goal, set with his coach, was paradoxically to play average by just hitting a solid, consistent ball. The strategy was to avoid attempting too much, recognizing that overplaying is precisely where he gets into trouble. He understood that Alcaraz preys on opponents who begin spraying errors and find themselves in difficult positions. The interviewer found this fascinating, questioning what Corda's top level must look like if this performance was merely average. Corda clarified he was referring to his average ball speed, not the overall quality of his game. He emphasized that he had been as aggressive as possible, serving brilliantly from start to finish. He asserted that this kind of assertive play is the only way to challenge a player of Alcaraz's stature. He lauded Alcaraz as a flawless opponent, incredible in movement, with a complete arsenal of shots and no apparent weaknesses. Therefore, Corda knew he absolutely had to be aggressive and dictate the flow of the match. By taking the racket out of his opponent's hand, he successfully tilted the points in his favor. Ultimately, the night's crucial difference was the battle for control. Alcaraz is the player who almost always dictates the tempo, deciding when to attack or deploy a drop shot. He is a master of flipping defense to offense instantly, but on this occasion, he was forced to react. Whenever the world's best player is put on the defensive, the door for an upset swings wide open. Though Corda created magic in Miami, the larger narrative now centers on Carlos Alcaraz. When a champion of his caliber falls, the focus immediately shifts to what happens next. That question is where the story becomes truly captivating, as this is more than one loss. It is about the constant evolution required at the pinnacle of a sport where every rival is studying your every move. Alcaraz's rapid ascent was fueled by overwhelming opponents with his breathtaking speed, power, and creativity. With a fearless spirit, he played the role of the hunter, chasing glory and greatness. But now, he is undeniably the hunted, with every coach and player dissecting his patterns for the slightest vulnerability. Matches like this one reveal that the gap between him and the field, though large, is not insurmountable. In his post-match comments, Alcaraz described it as a tough battle and praised Corda for an incredible performance. He pointed to numerous tight, critical moments where he simply failed to capitalize on his chances. He felt Corda was the superior player in those decisive points, which he identified as the key to the entire match. He offered sincere congratulations, stating that his opponent had fully earned the victory. Despite the loss, he battled with the heart of a true champion down to the final shot. When considering the path forward, he would focus on the positives with his team. He felt he had delivered a strong performance overall. The match, he believed, hinged on just a few critical moments where his opponent was simply better. Still, credit had to be given to the man on the other side of the net. His rival played magnificent points at a truly elite level. In discussions with his team, they would analyze the performance. They would review what he executed well from his training and what still needed work. He was pleased that he had successfully implemented strategies he'd been working on. Unlike previous tournaments, he He was finally beginning to feel comfortable on the court. The progress felt real, a silver lining in the sting of defeat. He was still on the right track. The pressure of being world number one was a constant topic of discussion. He contemplated whether his top ranking actually put less pressure on his opponents. He recognized the unique position he was in at the pinnacle of the sport. A strong winning record, he noted, can shift the psychological burden. He felt it made things easier for his rivals, who could play more freely against the world's best. It was a dynamic he was becoming acutely aware of. In his view, his opponents had far more to gain than they had to lose in these matchups. This allowed them to play with a sense of abandon, a feeling he perceived in almost every match. He insisted he felt no pressure himself, blocking it out entirely. His only focus was playing his best, even as he knew his opponents were playing with less weight on their shoulders. He reflected on the turning point in the second set. Down and nearly out, he had reeled off a string of points to steal the set. The question was what enabled that incredible comeback, and why. When facing the same situation in the third set, he couldn't replicate the escape. The opponent's level before serving at 5-4 in the second was immense. But from that moment on, his level experienced a significant drop. He was adamant that the difference in play was stark and undeniable. The level his opponent was playing at changed dramatically in that critical moment. He explained that closing out a victory is always incredibly difficult mentally. Your mind starts racing, and it's tough to manage the flood of thoughts. He could sense his opponent's tension, which led to 3 straight errors. These were mistakes his rival hadn't made during the entire match. He simply stayed solid, weathered the storm, and took full advantage of the opportunity. His plan was to keep as many bucks in play as possible, and it worked perfectly. However, at 5-4 in the final set, his opponent knew what he had to do. He unleashed huge first serves, making it incredibly tough to break him. Having faced the pressure before, his rival handled it much better the second time around. Frustration on the court was visible at times, though he fought hard to force a decider. He was asked how challenging it is to face an opponent playing far above their normal level. The key was to accept the situation and find a way to persevere. He confessed that facing such a performance is not a good feeling. It was intensely annoying, but something you have to accept and continue to battle through. He believed in his own deep arsenal of weapons to make his opponent uncomfortable. But on that particular day, he admitted he just couldn't find the right way to win. He now understood the standard he would face. He had to be prepared for his opponent's superior level. He had chances, facing breakpoints at 30-all and 40-all. He failed to convert, a lesson he would carry forward. He knew more opportunities would arise. He vowed to play better in those key moments, to crush their will. He would push them far beyond their limits. He was then asked about his plans for the next week. Would he remain in Miami or return to Europe? His next move was still uncertain to him. He hoped to go home to relax with his family and friends. His team, however, would determine his allotted rest days. Then, he had to get back on court for the clay season. He was excited about the upcoming tournaments. But first, his mind required a complete reset. He needed to be fully prepared for the demands of clay. For Alcaraz, this was a moment for a mental reset. Such a loss could create hesitation or ignite something deeper. History showed he would choose to find a sharper edge. He had proven that setbacks refine him, they don't break him. He was not overpowered. He was simply outmaneuvered. His opponent revealed a blueprint for others to follow. The victor was congratulated for an awesome performance. He was asked to explain his amazing opening strategy. His approach was built on 2 things, commitment and belief. He drew strength from his Bible that morning, Mark 9:23. The verse stated, "All is possible to one who believes." That one thought remained in his head the entire match. He was determined to control everything on his side. He admitted to being a little too committed on one break point, but his disciplined mindset was the foundation. He and his coach realized he was spraying the ball too much. He stopped going for shots he didn't need to make. He stopped trying for screamers, trusting his ball's natural pace. He was determined to get to the net and not let him dictate. It seemed he used the same tactics Carlos uses on others. He showcased his entire arsenal, including beautiful net play. He confirmed, variety was a massive part of his game plan. He refused to let his opponent stand and hit from one corner. The goal was to keep his opponent constantly moving. He worked to prevent him from running around to hit forehands. He nullified the threat of his opponent's drop shot. He put the ball on his own racket, playing aggressively. It was controlled aggression, not redlining for winners. He knew attacking the net was his only path to victory. His strategy was to invade his opponent's mind through sheer force. It required absolute commitment, a relentless forward assault on the net. The match turned when, with victory in sight, the second set slipped away. In that moment of collapse, his response would define the outcome. He drew on his deep-seated belief. But it was more than just faith. His real strength came from the painful memories of past defeats. He had stood on the verge of victory against great players before, only to falter. The agonizing loss to Taylor in Dallas became his most powerful lesson. In that match, he had been up 5-2 in the third set tiebreaker. Learning from those scars, he had finally forged a new resilience. The recent sting of defeat at Indian Wells only sharpened his focus. He applied those hard-won lessons, and this time, he finally broke through. It was an inspirational comeback, a testament to the power of will. His partnership with his coach, Ryan, proved to be a critical advantage. Since they teamed up, his rise had been swift and decisive. As a former player, Ryan understood the immense pressure of the fight. He knew the stress of the arena, and their bond was immediate. They had rebuilt his forehand, transforming it into a punishing weapon. Where he was once bullied on that side, he now delivered the blows. He had completely reversed the dynamic against his opponents. Pinpoint accuracy and an aggressive net game were now central to his success. He confessed that at 5-4 in the second, the pressure became intense. His opponent, a master of tension, made him feel every ounce of it. But his greatest feat was his ability to mentally reset for the final set. He entered the third with renewed focus, battling for every serve. Through it all, his father watched from the stands, a mask of calm composure, but after the final point, he knew his father was absolutely electrified. Away from the cameras, his dad's passion for the game was loud and fierce. The broadcast showed a man of stone, even in the most critical moments. His father and coach worked together seamlessly, creating a powerful team. His dad knew him best, while Ryan had earned his complete professional trust. Ryan was the main voice, but always consulted with his father for deeper insight. This victory was the culmination of a brutal fight back from injury. Through all the setbacks, his inner voice insisted he had what it takes. A win on this stage was the ultimate validation of that unyielding belief. He knew that long layoffs don't just heal the body. They dull the competitive fire. A huge part of his comeback was the desperate search to reignite that flame. Since 2022, he had lost nearly 4 months each year to injury. He would show flashes of his true potential, only to fade from the tour. Now, his primary mission is to find consistency and stay on the practice court. His dedication to the gym has become a cornerstone of his new approach. The singular focus is now on relentless training and preparation. He is driven by a powerful need to remain consistently in the fight. His mantra is simple: keep believing, keep fighting, and keep playing. He now welcomes these moments of extreme stress, knowing they are what forge a champion. This loss signals a turning point. Alcaraz has to find another gear to stay on top. He doesn't need a total teardown, just tactical tweaks and smarter point design. He needs more discipline in long exchanges and clutch decision-making when the pressure is on. Then there's the brutal physical toll of the modern tour, where he has been the main attraction. He's making deep runs week after week, shouldering the weight of massive expectations. The burden of being tennis's future is immense, and even the greatest champions hit rough patches. These aren't epic fails or steep drops, just tiny shifts in focus, energy, and rhythm. This match was likely just that, a slight dip. At this elite level, that small margin separates a win from a shocking defeat. But this setback could be a blessing, as constant winning can easily mask developing problems. When victories come easily, minor flaws stay hidden. A loss like this, however, puts everything under a microscope and forces a hard look in the mirror. It demands change. For a competitor as young and hungry as Alcaraz, that kind of lesson is priceless. History shows this is a classic chapter in any legend's story. Every all-time great has faced this test. It's that point where the field closes in. Rivals gain confidence, and every single match becomes a dogfight. They all went through it. What separates the legends from the rest is how they answer the challenge. Do they adjust? Do they reinvent themselves and return with a vengeance? Everything about Alcaraz screams that he will. At his age, his arsenal is already one of the most complete the sport has ever witnessed. He has power, touch, and speed, anchored by a warrior's mentality that thrives on adversity. This single defeat changes none of that. It simply adds a dramatic new arc to his narrative as all eyes turn to his next match. That's where the truth will be revealed. A champion's greatness is measured not in easy wins, but in how they rise after being knocked down.